Batman and the Court of Owls opens on a monologue about a news slide that asks people to finish this sentence. Gotham is blank. Most people define Gotham by its history of crime, inequality, and tragedy. But Batman believes that defining Gotham by what it is, what it's always been, is a waste of time. Rather, we should ask, what could it be? But the ghosts of the past are rooted too deeply to be easily forgotten. In fact, the ghosts are so old they created nests in the foundation of Gotham itself. Bruce wants to build new additions to Gotham's skyline, and in the process create more resources and hideouts for Batman. But someone much older than him already had the same idea. They have posts in the unlucky 13th floor of skyscrapers, the small space created out of fear of a superstition. They have connections across all the wealthiest and oldest families in the city. They're heard of only in nursery rhymes so old your grandparents' grandparents heard them in the crib. The Court of Owls is a secret society that claims to own Gotham, and their claim is disgustingly credible. The Owls threaten Batman's pride in a way few villains could. They threaten his perception of the city itself, as Batman City, where he fights the nastiest villains for a better tomorrow. But the city is too big to be completely his, and the court makes him realize this. Now that the Owls have revealed themselves, they seem to own more and more of Gotham, and their history is so much longer and larger than that of the Bat. At his lowest point, Batman insists that he knows all the tricks. Hell, he invented them. But this is a rare case of Batman's ego showing. No doubt because of the tainted water he drank while trapped in that godforsaken maze. But Batman truly wanted to believe he could be everything to Gotham. He wanted to be its first true legend come to life. He wanted to believe he was smarter than everyone else. That he truly did invent all the tricks. But someone was here before him, and they're still here, standing just out of sight for the longest time. And he's forced to acknowledge the court and how it made Gotham what it is today, and just how little he knows his beloved city. It makes Batman look small in comparison. They are wealthy like Bruce, but they use that wealth to create generations of soldiers, any of whom could be a match for Batman. It's impersonal, but more appropriate for wealthy kings and queens. Why go outside when the city is already in the palm of your hand? And you have no shortage of talents to act as your fingers. Even the Wayne house was infested by owls. The anecdote of Bruce's great-grandparents using owls to get rid of the bat infestation is a clear metaphor. They unknowingly let the owls into their home, and they'd eventually sink their talons into Alfred's father and Bruce's unborn brother. But even when the bats are hunted, they stubbornly cling to life, and they'll be back with a vengeance. The court's affinity for the past would give Batman his first advantage, and that advantage is his intimate knowledge of the city and how it helps him time and time again. The water he drank in the owl's maze was drugged, but Batman still recognized the taste of the water through it. It gave him clues to his location. When he first encounters Talon, it's not any of the 12 statues initially built on the tower that breaks his fall. It's the 13th Guardian that was built in tribute to the airports decades later. The Owls represent Gotham's past, defined by violence, corruption, and oppression. And maybe they did own it completely at some point. But cities change and expand over time. Even Nightwing uses the new nitrogen pipes to his advantage when fighting off a Talon. The Talons were the greatest assassins of their eras, but they're outdated. Bringing your star athletes back to life sounds like a good idea, but time waits for no man, no matter how rich. The court never touches Gotham's ground, and the Talons are only familiar with its past. Holding the city in your hand is not the same as walking its streets, and knowing the details like the back of your hand. Gotham City itself is a character in the story. She's a city that changes over time, and the relationship between the setting and the characters who claim to own it is dynamic. The court would have had a more modern Talon who would have a better grasp on the city, but the boy they've been training found another purpose in life. Nightwing fights his grandfather William, and what he could have been. Growing up poor, William saw two types of people, children of Gotham, and children born in Gotham. The chosen and privileged, the unfortunate and forgotten. Despite lifting himself out of poverty and falling in love with an aristocrat, he was unable to rise above his station and join her family. And it's because of his experiences that he agrees with the father of his love. He insists that Gotham is a dichotomy of black and white, the white pieces who are given the first move, and the black pieces who are always a step behind. He says William can lift himself out of poverty, but not into the realm of people who actually matter. William couldn't argue because his life was proof as such. The Owls lured him in with words of how they were the gray in Gotham, the middle ground between the two classes, that he could change the city by working with them. But it's clearly a lie. Even the color choices reflect this. The labyrinth that the Owls stuck William and Batman in was colored with only pitch blacks and harsh whites. The owls themselves are dressed in clean white masks and jet black suits. You have to ignore the women, but yeah. The owls don't believe in gray. To them, it's a sweet lie to lure in new talons. And since the talons broadly represent an under or perhaps a middle class, the fact that they're manipulated by hopes of joining the 1% or by changing the system is tragically accurate. The name Grayson that Nightwing inherited was to represent the union between two classes. But despite rejecting William's inheritance, he came to represent his namesake. He was a poor circus kid, a wounded bird, lifted out of poverty by the grace of a bat who understood his pain. He's experienced both worlds and fights for both worlds. Whether rich or poor, nobody deserves to experience the pain the Bat family has. Dick Grayson is the child who escaped the owls, found his own sense of justice, and is part of the family that only has eyes for Gotham's future. I always thought it was funny how the longer a comic book character exists, the more convoluted their canon and backstories become. For better or worse, new writers want to write new twists into old characters, and they will change core details about them. Dick secretly being raised to become a Talon or Bruce's grandparents getting tied up in conspiracy fits thematically, because the Court of Owls is how the rich and powerful can shape things in their favor at the inception or creation of cities, companies, or systems. They're insidious villains by design, and I think they're insidious in a clever way. This is just a way to illustrate their influence on a personal level for the Bat family. The other short encounters between the Talons and the Bat family in the Night of Owls goes a way towards expanding these ideas. Damian sees the Talons as what he used to be, blindly loyal pawns to their clan and uncritical towards their cause. Red Hood sympathizes with a Talon who doesn't want to spend his second life ruled by others, because he too decided to spend his second life following his own sense of justice instead of falling in line with his mentors again. Mr. Freeze also makes for a good side villain in the story arc, because his love and relationship with his wife is completely static, unlike the ever-evolving city of Gotham. It's even his serum that brings the past back to life. One of the Talons similarly can't even see all the ways Gotham has changed. He still sees horse-drawn carriages where there is now cars. They are stuck in the past and stubbornly cling to it. Getting back to Batman, Bruce Wayne is the good billionaire, the philanthropist, your Ford or your Rockefeller. He puts the bat suit on himself in order to get the hard jobs done, because getting his hands dirty isn't beneath him. Any excess wealth he creates goes towards making Batman work. He's the ideal of what a rich man should be. While the Court of Owls is everything people fear about the 1%. They're old money. They treat people like possessions and they stack every game in their favor inside and outside their cult meetings. They control the foundations that shape our lives, and benefit from it to this day. Their elaborate masks and decor are indicative of masquerade balls, which are completely harmless and seem to kick ass as far as I can tell. But that doesn't stop people from creating conspiracies and superstitions about the Rothschild parties. When powerful people get together to do weird or over-the-top things, it can feel alienating to people looking outside. And seeing how the court loves to abuse superstition to obscure its own existence, it's an effective aesthetic decision. The dichotomy between the rich and the poor is used one last time in the fight between Batman and the final Talon. Side note, I love this panel. It's perfect. I'm so glad it's not above this comic to do something as corny as this. As a child, Lincoln always saw the city's skyline through the reflection of an office building. He never saw the same Gotham Bruce did, only a skewed, limited perspective of it. His window only let him see planes coming but never leaving. He only ever saw the city through a small window and hyper-fixated on what he saw. While both him and Bruce are eligibly brothers who lost their parents, in Lincoln's dichotomy, Bruce is the have, the rich and fortunate son, while he is the have-not, forgotten and left without a fortune to support him. As corny as it might sound, a lack of wealth can result in a limited perspective of the city or country you live in. If you don't have access to the internet, you can't easily compare prices. If you can't afford school, you can't get a proper job. If you don't have parents as guides, you'll have blind spots about many different topics. There are welfare programs that hide without advertising because even though they are lawful, the government would rather have as few people taking advantage as possible. Lincoln's warped view of the city from his orphanage bedroom is this metaphor. He did eventually rise out of the gutter, but only under the watch and influence of the owls. At best, he only saw the city from two extremes. It's surprisingly appropriate to give the final Talon an identity crisis. Not just because I love these owl puns, but because Gotham City itself is in a crisis of identity. An idea first introduced by Two-Face being an answer to the Gotham is a news slide in the opening sequence. But it's not just happening within the heads of characters like Batman, but also in a literal sense as the outcome of this fight between owls and bats will determine who gets to shape Gotham next. Lincoln's claim to be a Wayne was left ambiguous, but whether or not it's true isn't what's important. If he isn't a Wayne, he would still have been an unfortunate foster child. That backstory would have just been another child born in Gotham told sweet lies by the Owls to create another Talon. If he is a Wayne, then that still doesn't change what has to be done. No matter who saw the real Gotham or owned it or defined it, Gotham has to change. It will change. And it's always been changing. Because a better Gotham is always a dream away. Gotham is too large a city to be owned or defined by one word anyway. Too big for Batman or the Court of Owls to completely own and understand. Because Gotham is alive. The end of Batman New 52 returns to the Gotham is news slide. And the final answer is Gotham is you always. You live here, your actions no matter how small can change your life or the lives of the people around you. Gotham is made by its people. Thank you for watching. I'm still relatively new to comic books. I've read a bit in high school and have seen plenty of the adaptations, but I've only recently taken a serious interest to get into them. So if there's anything I got wrong, or if there's anything more about this continuity that would add more to the story that I failed to bring up, please do not be afraid to correct me. Thank you again for watching, like and sub if you want to see more, and I'll catch you on the flip side.